Hi, my name is Kareen Vargas. I'm a Project 516 intern, and this is my creative expression of what the Lord did this year. I was trapped behind the bars of my own self-imposed prison, though the way to freedom lay wide open just a few feet away. Fear gripped my lips and throat so tightly I was afraid to speak, and I had no hope that speaking would even help. Caught in the throes of cycles of sin and bad habits that threatened to make my mind cave in, so I took a drink, and then another. As my mind grew numb, I played dumb like the stakes weren't high, and I was making a waste of the grace God gave me as his child. Then one night, the grief made me want to flatline because death seemed like a sweet release from my depression-soaked plight. Then the light came in. 516. I had a vision. I saw my heart depicted as a house where my landlord moved in and unpacked all his things. The room was dim. He set up camp, became my lamp, hung up the numbers 516. With the remaining ounce of energy I had left, I threw myself on the mercies of God that came in the form of a discipleship program. It was like I arrived at heaven's hospital. The urgency was urgent. See, I had starved myself so much of the bread of life that my faith was on its deathbed. Quick, get the word into her. The good physician held my hand as he attached the oxygen mask and assured me this wasn't the end. I was right where I needed to be. As soon as I stabilized enough to open up my eyes, I saw his gentle hands threaten to perform an open heart surgery. I fought his hands away. I said, no, it hurts too much. The wounds of my past had culminated to a cancerous tumor, and he told me if I didn't let him do his job, that I would get worse. So reluctantly, I submitted. To outreaches and prayer walks and book reviews and accountability meetings and serving at children's church and letting community get way too close. Oh no, they're going to see the painful weeds that have been plaguing me my whole life. I was delivered from a demon of fear one night, right there on the hospital bed. I learned a few things on the hospital bed. I learned that I have permission to be honest about any and every condition I'm in. I learned that it's okay for your spiritual family to see you at your worst, and it's okay for them to hold you during the worst of it. I learned that if I took my fingers out of my ears long enough, I could actually hear the lover of my soul speak words that would caress my attention-starved heart like a big bear hug. I learned that I clutched idols in my hands so tight that my palms bled, and when things got hard to handle, I ran right back to them. I learned that my Savior's wrists and feet bled so I could let go of those idols and hold him instead. I learned that the word that John touched and saw and heard was the same one who stirred my heart to know him more. I learned that the reason I kept living like I was dead was because I deceived myself into thinking my life was still my own. So I engaged in the most violent spiritual tug of war that my heart has ever known. I learned that the Lord really is my shepherd, and that he's safe and loving and kind and funny and freedom. I learned that being confined to the hospital bed wasn't slavery, but actually true healing. I learned that I'm still on that hospital bed and he's still the great physician, but now I'm doing a whole lot better at breathing. This is the written portion of my testimony of what the Lord did. I came into 516 feeling fearful, hopeless, and unfulfilled. I was so used to living for myself that handing my life over to 516 was a huge leap of faith. But I was depressed, desperate for change, and just wanted my pain to end. So I applied, hoping this program would make me feel better. God gave me so much more than that. He has used this program to show me my most crippling fears and insecurities so that I could finally face them and overcome them. This has been a messy, grueling process, but so rewarding in the end. Together, we dealt with some pretty intense fears as he walked me through new experiences like 5:30 a.m. prayer walks in the hood, outreach, children's church, and leading middle school small groups. I remember being so scared of doing outreach that in September I was crying to Charlene, the outreach coordinator, about it. The unknown did not appeal to me and made me anxious. But God lovingly threw me into challenge after challenge, making sure that I saw him in everything, and I have grown. He's uncovered so many hidden and hurting layers of self. This whole time, he's been chipping away at the mud and muck surrounding my inner diamond. I've gotten triggered many times since I moved in, and at first I would recoil from the pain and self-medicate because that's what I was used to. But it's taken me until this month to understand that with each trigger, he's calling me in deeper to learn about what is crippling me and to let God and others in instead of shutting them out. Besides, running from my pain was only shredding me inside. I didn't want to deal with it, but now I am, and I'm inviting you along with me. So about these insecurities. For the last few years, people would claim they love me and even show it, yet do just one thing that I perceived as rejection, and it brought my whole world down. I would start thinking that they actually hated me and never loved me. I had to face this pain living in a house with 5 other women and doing life with 5 other interns. I've had to learn what it's like to let others in to my deepest wrestling and not run away, but let God heal me through community. That has been one of the hardest things about 516. I've acted out of passive aggression, pettiness, and jealousy, and have feverishly tried to gain acceptance from people thinking that I need it. I've been living this way for years. God also has revealed my tendency to be phony about what I'm really feeling inside, afraid that my vulnerability will not be accepted. I would wear masks to hide the intensity of my deep pain, but they're falling off now. Now I'm seeing that I have permission to be raw and honest. As I turn to him and get filled, I'm less drawn toward my usual coping mechanisms, like alcohol, relationships, food, and movies. I liked them because they made me feel better. Without them, I just felt like the worthless scum of the earth. But why? Why did I feel so low about myself? Well, I've gone through inner healing and counseling for years in pursuit of this answer. I've chipped away at childhood wounds, forgiven people from my past, yet found myself going back to the same crippled living and thinking as before. I had the expectation that 516 would fix me, so by the time May rolled around, I felt defeated and frustrated because I'd gone back to some of those old ways. Hopelessness was starting to set in again. Where was my breakthrough? I craved the life of righteousness, peace, and joy that the Bible promises me as a believer. Would lasting healing ever come? I was spending 516 filling my mind with scripture only for God's promises to violently meet the untrue beliefs in my head with great resistance, beliefs that felt so strongly rooted and immovable. I couldn't properly absorb the truths of God, and it was frustrating. If God's word was not supposed to return void, then why was this happening? Maybe I was just broken beyond repair. I have so much more clarity now. The issue is that I would touch on my inner pain, but not walk through it all the way with God, thinking it wouldn't help anything. And I saw inner healing as tiresome. I was afraid to go in deeper, so I never did. But all he wanted was for me to talk to him about how I felt. That's it. He just wanted relationship. He wanted to be my father. And there were unresolved things in my past I had to properly process with him. There were more people to forgive and things to grieve. In doing all this, I would grow closer to God and finally taste the freedom I had been fighting so hard to get. It's been a battle this whole year because I haven't been wanting to put in the work, but with every wall he tears down, I see that in order to come out of this, I have to go through it with him. So it was hard to receive God's truth because of beliefs that I'm not cool enough, not good enough. I'm always trying to belong but never belonging, that I'm not really accepted by God or people, and that everyone around me is fake to at least some degree. All this fostered in me this desperate drive to overcompensate for my perceived inadequacy by talking and acting certain ways, trying to be funny, trying to impress certain people, and trying to find ways to feel better about myself by getting my dream job or the right career in music or a position that would give me permission to tell myself, see, you're not a loser, we made it. I was trying to prove to myself and the world that I was not the uncool, easily discardable, worthless, friendless girl from 6th grade. These lies from my past were arresting my present, and I had to go back and be healed. I had to talk about it. So, in 6th grade, I was bullied by an acquaintance who would constantly harass me and intimidate me. It started slowly, but things got worse to the point where I didn't understand why she hated me so much. What did I do? It's like she couldn't wait to see me just so she could call me names and pit others against me and make sure everyone knew she hated me. One day she called me a name in the hallway and I defended myself. She didn't like that, so she cornered me in the bathroom and I was paralyzed with fear as she yelled at me. Though she was a foot shorter than me, I was terrified. That's probably the moment the spirit of fear entered my life. I had never seen anger unleashed like that on me. That year, I would lie to my mom about being sick just so I wouldn't have to go to school and go through more abuse. Additionally, there was a clear hierarchy among us 12-year-olds, and I didn't make it anywhere near the top. I knew who the cool kids were and that I was not one of them, and started to believe I can never be one of them. I started to believe I was unwanted, not worth being friends with, or worth anything. I concluded that if I was worth something, then I would have friends and people wouldn't treat me like garbage. My self-esteem plunged low and my insecurities spiked up. I felt lonely and cast aside, especially when I found myself sitting alone at lunch a couple times. Why did the other kids hate me so much? Why couldn't I make friends? What made me so detestable that nothing I did made them like me? The damage was done as these lies sunk in, and I carried this pain into high school. I decided I needed to make myself likable. By age 14, I was on a desperate pursuit to be accepted, so even if I needed to be fake, it would be worth it if I got acceptance from others. That didn't work, and I experienced more rejection, which wounded me further. By the time I entered adulthood, I was starving for attention and looking for ways to feel like somebody. So just 1 week ago, I addressed these wounds with God, and he started highlighting to me all these other painful memories where I started to believe certain lies. There was a lot more ground to cover. This time, I didn't run. Things fell into place in my mind as I connected the dots, and I saw how this and that lie was bearing bad fruit in my life. There was unforgiveness hiding in my heart, and once I discovered it and forgave my offenders, demonic oppression and torment started leaving me. Baggage was snapping right off me with every confession. I have been crying, forgiving people, and being brutally honest. I feel so much lighter after just 1 week, and this is only the beginning. As I speak and open up, the light comes in, and the darkness has to leave. I don't feel the same heaviness I had when I came in, which is a huge deal for me. I see now that this is how I'm meant to live, and it's not just a tool in 516. So this year, I have seen the Lord. I've seen how invested and attentive he is as a father, and the closeness of our relationship is what heals me. I was created for it. I've learned that honesty is non-negotiable and pretending only causes harm. Although the pain of recovery has been agonizing at times, going through it is worth getting to know my Lord more. I want to leave you with some lyrics of the song Healing Begins by 10th Avenue North, which sums up my journey perfectly. This is where the healing begins. This is where the healing starts. When you come to where you're broken within, the light meets the dark. Thank you.